I like to think of participation in a different way. If we really believe in participation, you have to believe that every individual brings his or her own experience and knowledge, which is equally valuable as anybody else's who is affected by that particular product or service. Now, if you look at that way, then every person, whether literate, illiterate, has a particular perspective and experience which contributes to the solution.
My interest in this theme is actually coming from three factors: innovation, collaboration, and participation. It's how companies fundamentally work. What's interesting is that this also operates because they depend on a medium that allows them to exist in this way, and that's the internet. And the internet in turn, and all policy matters, really flow from how larger social practices and our institutions of policy approach them. It's essentially a cycle. The net's not open, and the net can only be open if societies are open and governments are open.
I don't know if you've heard about the game Minecraft. I think it's been around for about like 18 months. Had some 20 million people downloading it. There is an open source which was used in Sweden when they were designing in one city, which was designing like a new area of town, both for housing and retail, etc. Because it's fun, it's gaming. People like doing it. A lot of the citizens of that city went into this open source designing of the new part of town, and they were doing it as a game. In the end, they came out with a product which would have been very difficult from a bureaucratic perspective to come up with, and which had input from people who would never have come to the open forums, who would never have commented on papers that were out there for negotiations or for discussions. Holding that into consideration, that not everybody has the same intellectual capacity, not everybody has the same time, so it needs to reach out to people and make it fun for them. It needs to be fun.
I believe technology can be a great platform. I don't think it's a solution to every design challenge, but it's a great platform considering that so many people have access to technology in India right now, right? It's a great platform to reach out to different people.
I'm also a little skeptical about the use of internet and websites, especially in India where the rural community, obviously, most of them do not have access or are not able to use that kind of infrastructure. So here, I think the use of mobile phones would be quite interesting to talk about. We are a highly decentralized country, and face-to-face interactions are still very, very important. So how can innovation strategies be fit into that kind of concept as well?
The cognitive means that are used in the participatory processes. Text, in the Indian context, is the most useless cognitive artifact, given the range of people, literacy, scripts, etc. So if we want to move towards participation in Indian context, it's my humble opinion that we have to go to a visual space. A visual space is much more accessible to a larger number of people than pure text or even speech.
SMS is also text. I think this is an intervention about the value of text in India is very, very important, because far too many people focus on those bits of characters that are in a mobile phone. Many people can't. Those people who have a mobile phone right now who can access text are going to access data very soon. And I think we need to often look at other countries and what they're doing. Look at Africa. Africa is not relying only on text messaging or standard solutions. They understand a variety of experiences, from text messaging to rich metadata like online maps, complicated maps sometimes.
In 2009, the CTO for the US started something called data.gov, that's data.gov, where they started putting out data sets which are not private, which are in the public domain. So things like bus routes, it could be clinical trials, it could be anything, right? Now they have in excess of 300,000 data sets that are out there. And citizens of the US have built about 1,500 apps, web apps, mobile apps, things like that, which allow you to do a lot of things on your own based on publicly available information. But again, the final challenge, real challenge that we are faced with practically on a day-to-day basis is, how do you scale this? Yes, it works for 300 people. Does it work for 3,000? Does it work for 3 lakhs? And does it work for India?
What we've discovered is when you actually engage in dialogue using a technology platform versus an open forum like this, when it's not an anonymous question, when people have to say, I am Virginia with IBM, here's my question, the questions tend to be more constructive versus open dialogue with communities and societies when people are not accountable for their question. So leveraging social media or leveraging technology platforms that force people to identify themselves, allow them to be a little more reserved about blatantly putting something out there that they would themselves not feel comfortable being asked. So I think there's a role that technology plays in making people more accountable for what they bring to the table in the dialogue versus just criticizing and accusing and, you know, government bashing or whatever.
The more we work with participative methodologies, the more we have felt that we're moving on an axis. There is arrogance on one side and humility on the other. The thing about partnership and participation, the thing that we have realized is, yes, you might take in a representative sample. You might say that talking to 300 people is representative for India. But then there's another 3,000 people out there who have their own wants and needs. So when you build a solution, you are going to hear feedback from the ones who did not get consulted. So how do you deal with that is the question, and that's going to be an issue that we need to deal with. So that's how many inputs and whose inputs, and how much do these inputs really matter.